All right, everyone, welcome to this month's episode for the One Thing webinar series. Every month, we try to bring you the author behind a best-selling book. And what I'm particularly very excited about this conversation today, because a lot of people who write books, they've done amazing research or they want to share great ideas, yet as you were just saying, Keith, not all of them have actually done what the book is about. And especially when it comes to extraordinary results in business, today you have a very rare opportunity to have a chance to sit down with somebody who has created extraordinary success as a business owner, has enjoyed wealth beyond what most people can ever imagine, has suffered losses that would cripple most people, and found his way to build it back and keep it. It's not what you make, it's what you keep. He is the author of a book that has inspired my most recent 66-day challenge, The Road Less Stupid, Advice from the Chairman of the Board. So with that, I'd like you to meet Keith Cunningham.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So give people an understanding of who you are and what your career has been about up until this point.
So I'm a business guy. Obviously, you can tell from the accent, it's not from New Jersey or the UK. I've been in Texas my entire career. I went to the University of Texas and was fortunate very early on in my career. In fact, my first job at a school, I had a terrific mentor. I had two mentors. And probably of all the decisions I've ever made, that one was the most pivotal. To align myself and study under people that had been there, done that, and were willing to take me under their wing and nurture me. So I've been involved in over 20 different industries as an owner. I've bought companies, I've started them, I've sold them, I've torn them apart, I've raised a lot of money. I've made, as you indicated, I've made a bunch, and I lost it. And it's part of my story, and I suspect that'll be something that we talk about. Is what are the lessons that you learn from failure? I love what Bill Gates said. Bill Gates said, "Success is a lousy teacher because it lulls smart people into believing they know what they're doing."
Say that again.
Success is a lousy teacher because it lulls smart people into believing they know what they're doing. And I had that. I had a terrific business and terrific income, and I probably got too scattered. I started doing too many things at once. I started smoking my own exhaust. I got cocky and ultimately had some really powerful learnings from that. Rebuilt it, and now I spend the majority of my time teaching or consulting, advising business owners. We have business owners from all over the world that come to Austin, Texas on a quarterly basis and meet with me in a board setting. I teach a course called the 4-Day MBA, how to buy or exit a business. So the bulk of the teaching and work and writing that I'm doing now is really based on the last 45, 46 years of business mistakes. I probably have learned more from my mistakes than I ever dreamed I could learn. I don't want to repeat them. I'm clear on that, but nevertheless, I did learn a lot. So that's kind of a thumbnail of me. I own businesses today, so I teach what I do, and I'm probably one of the people that I study the mistakes and I study the successes, and I try to figure out, okay, what could I do better? What did I learn?
Take us back to the 1980s when you're a real estate developer and you have an incredible net worth, and all of a sudden you find yourself overnight millions of dollars upside down.
Yeah, it was brutal. Most people that are listening to this can remember 2007, 2008. In 2007, 2008, in the United States, there were less than 10 banks that failed. From 1988 until 1991, 3,400 banks failed. It was regionally, it was far more severe than what happened in 2007, 2008. And so the economy turned, it flipped, and I was caught with a ton of debt at exactly the wrong time. I had a tremendous net worth. I had a lot of cash, and I had a lot of debt. And I woke up every morning for 4 years, and I negotiated with my banks and negotiated with the government who took over a lot of the failed banks that I was doing business with. Finally got out of debt. 4 years, I got out of debt. I got back to even.
How far upside down did you go?
100 million. I was 100 million upside down, and I got back to even. W.C. Fields said one time, "I sure hope I break even on this deal. I could really use the money." And I kind of felt the same way. You know, if I can just get back to even, and I did. I jettisoned all the real estate, all my assets, which I had all different kinds of stuff. And I got rid of all the debt, so I was even. And to me, that was a victory. And my accountants came to me and said that I owed the IRS $9 million because I had created something called phantom income, which simply happens when a bank forgives debt. So if I owe a bank 10 million and I only repay 6, I have 4 million of income. I didn't really have the income. I didn't have the cash because I used it to buy property. So that my accountants come to me and tell me I have this problem. And I said, I thought being clever, well, since it's phantom income, let's give them a phantom check. I mean, how hard can this be? And they said it ain't going to work. And so really I had two choices. Either I could pay the money, which I didn't have any longer, or I could declare bankruptcy. In February the 12th, 1991, I declared personal bankruptcy. And it was the worst thing that could have happened because I had my identity attached to my net worth. My self-worth and my net worth were entwined. And that's a brutal combination. And so I did a lot of work internally. We got a lot of help, a lot of support from people that I think are very, very smart. And they kind of coached me through that time period. I then recreated, I became a turnaround guy for several different businesses and recreated my net worth and kind of fell in love with teaching simultaneously. So I was given a radio interview in Ireland. This was probably 10 years ago. I was there to speak. And the promoter of the event said, "Keith, would you be willing to do a radio commercial the day before the event where there's supposed to be, I don't know, 5,000 or 6,000 people to show up and hear you speak?" And I said, "Sure, I'll be glad to do a radio interview." And so they brought me to the radio disc jockey's studio, and the disc jockey was on air, and then he went off air for a commercial, and I sat down in the chair just like this, and he looked at me while we were off the air, and he said, "Is there anything you don't want me to ask or to say?" And I said, "Yeah, you know what, let's not bring up losing $100 million. Let's just leave that one alone. We'll talk about something else." So he said, "Okay." So we get back from the commercial, and this guy said, "I'm here with Keith Cunningham. Keith, how does it feel to lose $100 million? And of course, we're on the air, and I can't say what I really thought. I said, and this is the lesson. I said, "Let me tell you something. Life is like a university. And in a university, there are courses, and every course has a tuition. I just took a course in the University of Life, and the tuition was $100 million. First of all, not very many people get to take this course. It's kind of expensive. Secondly, the question is not how does it feel to have paid that much money to take the course. The question is, did I get my money's worth? Did I learn the lessons?" And I would say the bulk of the success that I've created and kept since that happened in the early 1990s is really a result of the lessons that I had to learn the hard way. I think it's crazy to have to learn lessons the hard way. I had people around me at the time I should have listened to. I didn't. I became too cocky probably to ask for help. There's a great poem that goes, "Here lies the body of Justin Gray. He died defending his right of way. He was right, his case was strong, but he's as dead as if he were wrong." That was me. I was kind of dead right. And my experience is, and this is really why I teach and write and do the things I do at this point, is because I don't think you have to learn all the lessons the hard way.
Yeah.
I think you can surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, that have been there, and can. I heard somebody say one time, and I think it's true, if you're going to go someplace you've never been, it's a great idea to have a guide. And I think that's what we all need. We need people guiding us and help clearing their path, and people that have a sense of true north. And how do we get from here to there?
Well, I think that's one of the things that initially attracted me to you, and ultimately to your book, The Road Less Stupid, which people, if you don't have a copy of this yet, I would suggest going to Amazon. I literally have been tearing through this thing, and it's been the backbone of my current 66-day challenge, which we'll get into what power habit I'm forming as a result of this. But when I think about, okay, I don't want to have to pay $100 million. You already did it for me, so thank you. I appreciate that. You talk about these 5 core disciplines. What were some of those lessons that was worth the price of tuition of $100 million?
You know, I think probably one of the biggest mistakes, and this is something that I still struggle with. I still fight this tendency to avoid thinking about second order consequences. My tendency is to want to tell myself a story about the upside without ever considering the downside. I have a 3-part rule that I have baked into my thinking. And the 3-part rule is, what's the upside, which I'm really good at? What's the downside, which most of us aren't that good at? Usually you need some help to think about what could go wrong. And then question number 3 is, can you live with the downside? And I think that's a question that only the pros ask. Everybody asks what the upside is. A few people will they'll nibble around the edges of what's the downside, but they really don't get real with it. They don't talk about all the things that could go wrong. And almost nobody asks the 3rd question. I think second order consequences, I think evaluating risk is one of the most powerful things that you can do as a business owner or as somebody who wants to be successful in business. I think making money is very different than keeping it. Those are 2 different skill sets. You and I were talking earlier, Jeff, about what does it take to make money, and I kind of flippantly said, look, you can get lucky and make money, but you can't be lucky and keep it. I think keeping it requires thinking in terms of what could go wrong, where's the risk, and the reality is that's why we have a board of directors. You look at the biggest companies in the world, you look at the most successful people in the world, and over again you find a board of directors or a mentor or a coach or somebody who will have honest conversations with you. I think the higher you go or the higher you want to go, the greater the requirement that you have somebody around you who will tell you the truth.
Yeah. My question for those of you who are watching this or listening to this, how many of you are natural optimists, like this guy right here, where the glass is not only getting half full, there's cracks and water spewing out, and you still think it's going to overflow? That's me. And I remember in my first 90 days in starting this company with Gary and Jay, I was asked the same questions. What's the upside? What's the downside? Are you willing to live with the downside? And if the answer to that 3rd question is no dice. Don't go forward.
That's right.
And right people around you. It's powerful.
I think it's very powerful. I think I think separating the story from the facts. I have a tool that I use. I'll mention it real briefly. Most of us know what a postmortem is. A postmortem is somebody dies and they figure out why they died. A premortem asks you to think about 1 year from today, project 1 year into the future, and you look back. And in looking back, the decision you're about to make, as if it's already been made, the decision has turned into a total dumpster fire. Total dumpster fire. The thing is raging out of control. It's a giant mess. From the perspective of a year down the road, looking backwards, what were all the things that could have happened that caused this to be a mess? And it's called a premortem. It's probably one of the most powerful tools that you can use when making business and financial decisions. Of course, it will also work in your personal life. But from a business perspective, I find that most people don't do the appropriate amount of risk analysis. They don't really think through their decisions. They go with their gut. They go with their intuition. They go with their glands. And they wind up making glandular, emotional kinds of decisions. There's a book that you have, I have, 90% of you probably know of it, or many of you actually have it. A few of you have probably even read it.